My name is Gavin Evans, and this is my list of my 10 biggest disappointments of 2022. Now, 2022 was honestly a really bad year for movies. Lots of disappointments. Well, my expectations were up here, and the movie delivered far below that. So, here are 10, and the first one is The Lost City. The idea of Sandra Bullock and Channing Tatum looking for a lost city while being hunted down by Daniel Radcliffe, like that is golden right there. I want comedy movies to make a comeback. You've got yourself a great cast. Brad Pitt's also in this movie. And this movie just never worked for me. I found it annoying. Channing Tatum's character is infuriatingly stupid, and I hate it. Lots of people I know in real life actually really love this movie, but I'm not one of them. My next biggest disappointment is Nope. I liked Jordan Peele's first movie, Get Out. I thought that was brilliant. Us was a mixed bag, and this one is his worst one yet. There are some good, smart moments every now and again, but for the most part, I just found it to be so underwhelming. I found it to be lacking in every sense. And when the big finale comes, I was just on the verge of falling asleep, hoping for the movie to end soon. So, nothing about this movie worked for me, and it's a really big disappointment too because I don't think I can get excited for another Jordan Peele movie. He's let me down 2 out of 3 times now, and that's a few times too many. My next biggest disappointment is 3,000 Years of Yawning. Now, I do love lots of what this movie's trying to do. I like lots of this movie. In fact, my review comes out for it next month, I believe, and I did give it a positive review overall. It just should have been better. The weird romance between the two characters I didn't buy for a second. The last act, it really fell apart. I wish the stories being told were a bit better, and it's George Miller. Like his first movie since Mad Max Fury Road, and this is what we get. It should have been a better movie. My next biggest disappointment is Prey. And all I wanted was The Revenant with a Predator. And in some ways, we did get that, but we got a really generic version of that. This movie just doesn't stand out in any way. There's no grit, there's no atmosphere, there's no tension. I watched it and I haven't thought about it a day since until now. So, yeah, it just really did nothing for me. My next biggest disappointment is Crimes of the Future. Now, I'm going to say this. I don't like this movie, but Kristen Stewart's performance has sat really well with me. In fact, it's one of my favorite performances of 2022, which I know sounds insane to some people, but it is such a weird, self-aware, brilliant performance, and I think it's some of her finest work. The rest of the movie, though, is a huge disappointment. David Cronenberg, the master of body horror, coming back to deliver this underwhelming mess of a movie, it's just a shame. It's more of a climate change metaphor, and it all climaxes regarding in a autopsy on this little boy. It really didn't work for me. My next biggest disappointment of the year is one I didn't have very high expectations for, but it still hurts all the same, and it's Uncharted. As soon as the movie went through like 5 different directors, and Ruben Fletcher was hired a week before the movie started shooting, and when they cast Tom Holland and Mark Wahlberg, my expectations just dropped, but it still just stung. I don't actually think this is a terrible movie. If I had zero connection to the games, you could turn off your brain and watch this as a mediocre adventure movie. But as someone who loves the character of Nathan Drake and who loves the Uncharted franchise, this just felt like a spit in my face. Tom Holland is just nothing like Nathan Drake. It is one of the worst miscasts in history. Only topped by Mark Wahlberg as Sully. Like, what were they thinking? The only character they actually got right was Chloe, but another aspect of this movie I hate is the music. It's atrocious. It's one of the worst musical scores I've heard in my entire life. You know, there's one moment where they start playing the music from the games for just a minute and then it cuts back to the same generic shit. So, yes, this one was massively disappointing. My next biggest disappointment is Barbarian. Now, this is a movie I liked. I overall recommend it. But the way people talked about this movie leading up to it, and still talk about it for the record, I think is absolutely insane. Like, if you love this movie, all the power to you, but everybody was saying this is an insane, unpredictable movie. And I'm like, okay, I'm ready for an insane, unpredictable movie. And what I got was an entertaining movie that didn't deliver on anything new. Like, as soon as we saw the bedroom with the bed and the camera, I'm like, oh, it's a dungeon. And then I see there's a creature, I'm like, okay, well, it's probably a product of consistent that. And sure enough, that was the case. And I'm like, okay, so that's pretty predictable. And then everybody's like, oh my goodness, when Justin Long shows up, it is the biggest what the fuck moment ever. And I just truthfully don't get it. He just shows up. The movie just cuts and focuses on another character as we see him get involved in the story. Like, it's not this giant, shocking moment. It's something we've seen done in so many other movies. Tons of Tarantino movies. Like The Hateful Eight did it a lot more recently. And I truly baffled by the people calling it insane and unpredictable. I had fun with it. You should watch it. It's a shame it doesn't look like it's coming to Blu-ray. But I think some of the reactions and reviews are overblown. My third biggest disappointment is Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio. I love stop motion and I was so excited for this movie, and I still love aspects of it. In my review, I was very negative on the musical aspect, and I still stand by most of that. But Chaya Papa is a song that's actually sat really well with me, and I've listened to it quite a bit. The rest of the story, though, is just all over the place in a mess. Like, the last 2 minutes are very strong, but, you know, the original Pinocchio embraces its episodic formatting, while here it feels a little bit of here, now a little bit of here, now a little bit of here, and it just felt very messy for me and unnecessarily long. Like, 2 hours is just way too much. Cut it down to an hour and a half, and I didn't really care about the main characters. I thought the scene when he gets off Pleasure Island and then the one puppeteer captures him was just like a what's going on moment. And I don't know, this script is just a huge disaster. Like, if you love this movie, all the power to you. But in my own personal opinion, I don't understand how anybody could watch this and view a masterpiece. Very well made, though. The craftsmanship is great. I still liked it overall. Speaking of movies that people call masterpieces that I just don't get even remotely, my second biggest disappointment is The Batman. I've seen this movie twice now. There's another video coming, but I'll say this. I don't get it. This movie's on every best of 2022 list, and I truly do not understand it. It's incredibly well made. The atmosphere and the craftsmanship is the best part of this movie. But the story is lacking. It's completely reliant on Bruce Wayne as a character, and that's just completely non-existent. He's an empty vessel. So when we find out about his parents, I'm like, who gives a shit? And then they find ways to stretch the movie out with this ridiculous last act that just goes on for far too long. I thought the overall mystery was lacking. I don't even think Catwoman is needed in this movie. The fact that he goes by vengeance is just stupid. And Paul Dano is terrible as the Riddler. So I don't like this movie. I think it's bad, and I watched it again just hoping to love it, and whatever. To each their own. But my biggest disappointment is Window and Loud. I'm on record saying that this will be one of my favorite movies of 2022 without a doubt. I love Henry Selick, Coraline, Nightmare Before Christmas, two of my favorite movies ever. I enjoy Monkey Bone and James and the Giant Peach as well. I love stop motion. And this movie was just, for lack of a better term, a clusterfuck. And I knew that was going to be the case within the first couple of minutes when the main character's parents die like that and there's just zero emotion. And then it focuses on this girl as she gets used to this school, and then it focuses on these demons raising people from the dead, and then it focuses on this big demon who's looking for his sons, and then it focuses on this demon hunter and this teacher, and then it's also focusing on these people trying to build a prison. It's an utter disaster, and so much of the movie just feels like it's preaching at you. I'm not a fan of the progressive politics in this, and it's very in your face. In the last act, when the giant demon rises and the demon hunter's just like, "Oh, I've got your kids here," I'm like, what is this? And then when they're trying to stop the bulldozers from building the prison, it felt like a Frosty the Snowman TV special. And not in a good way. Yeah, I was shocked at how atrocious this was. The craftsmanship is great. I like the music. And Jordan Peele and Keegan-Michael Key have lots of life and personality that you get from their characters, but this movie should have been amazing. And it's not just awful, but it's so clearly awful. I don't get how they spent so much time on this movie and didn't recognize that the script was bad. I know that sounds... I just... disappointed. But what are your biggest disappointments of 2022? Let me know in the comments down below. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe. Stay tuned for some more videos soon. Gavin, out.